Well, the Electoral Commission will today officially launch the National Results Operations Centre ahead of the 2024 National and Provincial Elections. The National ROC, located at the Gallagher Convention Centre in Midrand, will be the central hub for electoral operations. It will further serve as a central hub for political parties, independent candidates, observers, business leaders and the media to access real-time election results. Let's now get an update. We cross now to SABC News reporter Natasha Phiri. Natasha, thank you so much for your time. So, of course, we know that these elections, there's some notable changes, particularly where you are at the moment. We know that, of course, the IEC has been using the Tshwane Events Centre since 1994. So this is a big move for them. Just talk to us about what we can expect and what the notable changes are at the ROC.
Well, indeed, Unati, a number of notable changes, but I just want to show you what the ROC, the Results Operations Centre in Gallagher actually looks like. What you're looking at right now is the leaderboard. This is where the results are actually going to be shown to members of the media. And like you've correctly said there in your introduction, the various political parties. But as SABC News, Unati, we have all our official radio stations that will be broadcasting here from the Results Operations Centre in Gallagher Estate in Midrand. Of course, as the SABC News, this will be our home for a week or so. So if I'll just ask Kwazi to show you all our radio stations, you've got Umhlobo Wenene, Likwala Kwala, Phala Phala, Thobela, you've got Ukhozi, you've got so many radio stations. All of us are broadcasting from here, Unati. What you're seeing right now is where various political parties will be situated. We've got the Patriotic Alliance here, you've got Rise Mzansi just over there, you've got RP, over here. You've also got Sizo Uma Nation. Remember, we've got over 70 political parties and 11 independent candidates that will be contesting these elections. For the National Assembly, you've got 52 political parties that will be contesting those hotly contested polls. Of course, not forgetting our independent candidates. This is going to be the first time in the history of our country where independent candidates will actually be contesting for a seat in the National Assembly. If you actually look to my left, this is a very important part here, and this is the X. This is the center or the hub of the ROC here, and this is where our results will be streaming into these various computers starting from the 29th of May. And of course, the results will then be broadcast live on the leaderboard behind me. If you look behind me, and if I'll just walk and talk, we've got a world-class studio as the SABC right here behind me, and next to it, we've got our virtual studio where we'll be broadcasting from. So very excited as Team SABC to be broadcasting from here, live from the ROC. As you know, we've got new technology, and you can see our beautiful studio there behind us, Unati. But just to take this conversation further, we're joined by DCO, Mr. Masego Shiburi. Dr. Shiburi, thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon.
So, can you see the finish line? Can you see the 29th of May coming?
The 29th of May is here, Philip.
Feel it's here. Cool. I mean, you've had so much time as the IEC put into these elections. Are you ready?
We are ready for these elections. We will open voting station on time on the 29th to receive the 27.7 million South Africans who are registered. On the 27th and on the 28th, we will afford those who are unable to come to a voting station to vote by way of special vote. We will visit them at their addresses or places of confinement. So it's all systems go for the 29th of May.
And let's not forget those votes. We had our expats voting overseas. Of course, those ballots will be brought back. When can we expect them? And of course, they will be counted on the 29th of May.
The process to verify and receive those ballots started yesterday in the presence of party representatives, and we will verify them. And once we close voting stations on the 29th, we'll start the process of counting those ballots.
Of course, Nat joins. We heard a briefing on Sunday. There have been 600 voting stations that have been identified as high-risk voting stations. The police have identified those and deployed accordingly.
It's unfortunate that even with an activity of civic expression like an election, there are people with genuine concern who feel the need to take their concerns to an election. The SABs are working with us to identify those stations, but the first preference is that the grievance of communities are addressed without resort to state security apparatus.
Natasha, we saw what the Concord had to say in relation with former President Jacob Zuma. I'm asking you this because you were there at the training where you had educated members of the media, about receiving results, and you had spoken to the issue of the MK party, saying that the IEC won't meddle in the internal affairs of the MK party. Jabulani Khumalo will still remain on the ballot, and I'm saying this because I actually saw him walking in. He may not be the party leader, but his name still remains on the ballot of the IEC.
The court has spoken. The implications of the Concord decision are that the ballot paper will not change. Mr. Zuma will still appear as the leader of that party on the ballot paper. That is the extent of the implication.
And the candidate list, he still remains there. Jabulani Khumalo.
Mr. Khumalo is on the candidate list. As we understand, he will remain on that candidate list.
Mr. Shiburi, thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Of course, that was Masego Shiburi just telling us also about the operations, of the IEC. Of course, those ballots will be counted this side on the 29th of May when people have actually stopped voting at 9 p.m. Remember, voting stations will open at 7 a.m. and will close at 9 p.m. Just a special, notice to our voters or to our viewers who are actually watching us right now. Special ballots will take place on the 27th and on the 28th of May. That is Monday and Tuesday. And of course, there's 1.7 million South Africans that have been accepted to actually, cast their special ballots. So for those who will be casting their special ballots, you will receive 3 ballot papers. The first one, like I alluded to earlier on, is the national ballots. That's a 2-column ballot sheet where 52 political parties will be represented. We then move to the regional ballots, and I think there's been so much confusion around the regional ballots. The first time in the history of our country, a regional ballot has been introduced to include, independent candidates and parties contesting their compensatory ballots in the National Assembly. So the regional ballot is new because it needed to accommodate the inclusion of independent candidates in the National Assembly. So basically, this is like, independent candidates and political parties taking their regional interests to the National Assembly. And lastly, you've got a provincial ballot where both independent candidates and political parties will be contesting seats in all 9 provincial legislatures across the country. So that's very important for our viewers to know. You will be meted out with 3 ballots at the voting station. Then there are some South Africans, over 300,000 South Africans, who have applied for a Section 24(8) vote. Meaning, if you're probably a journalist, I know some of my colleagues, police officers, have applied for this type of vote where they'll be working outside of their province that they actually preside in. So, for example, if Kwazi behind our camera will be working in KZN, but he actually lives in Gauteng, he's applied for a Section 24(A) ballot. He'll be voting in KZN on the day of the election, but remember, he'll only be given 1 ballot paper, which is the national ballot paper, because remember, he doesn't reside in that region, and he can't vote therefore for regional to national ballots, and he can't also cast his ballot for a provincial ballot because remember, he doesn't work or rather he doesn't live in that province. So that's very important to note. For those of our viewers or registered voters who are living with disabilities, or people with disabilities rather, you will be meted out with a UBT system. This is a universal ballot template that will be given to you at the voting station. So if you're impartially sighted, if you don't have a steady hand, if you're elderly and you need assistance with voting, an official and IEC staff at your voting station will be giving you a UBT template to actually vote. It is your constitutional right to ask for the staff member to actually provide you with that UBT system so you can actually vote. And this makes sure and ensures that people with disabilities could actually vote, with ease. So these are some of the things that you actually need to know. The IEC has promised that there is proper infrastructure at the various voting stations to cater for people, with disabilities. So this is something very important to note when you actually go to your voting station. So voting stations will be open from 7 to 9 p.m. And the IEC has actually pleaded and implored with South Africans to come out early, go to the voting stations first, then you'll conduct your braais afterwards. So this is the call from the IEC. Of course, this briefing will then start at 3 p.m. And of course, as members of the media, we will be fielding questions. Various political parties are actually in attendance. You've also got dignitaries. Some of those international observers that we know of will be in attendance today. So starting from today, we are officially counting down to the elections, 7 days away from those hotly contested elections. It really is an election year like no other, as we know that 11 independent candidates will be vying for those 200 regional or compensatory seats in the National Assembly. They also will be vying for those seats in all 9 provincial legislatures. And trust us as SABC News, make us your news channel of choice as we broadcast all the live updates here from the Results Operations Centre. Like I said earlier on, we've got all our radio stations here behind me situated. We also have our world-class technology studios, and we also have our virtual studios, and we will be giving you all the latest updates in regards to the 2024 national and provincial elections. With that said, it's back to you in Studio 90.
Fantastic. My colleague Natasha Phiri there. Thank you so much, Natasha.